The Galactic Council chamber was filled with tension. Delegates from hundreds of alien civilizations sat around a massive circular hall, their voices whispering in worried tones. A holographic display in the center showed a rotating image of Earth, the blue and green world that had become the greatest mystery and the greatest threat to the galactic order. Chancellor Varric of the Zorith Empire stood up, his sharp claws tapping against the polished floor. His yellow eyes scanned the room before he spoke. "This is our last chance," he declared. "Humanity must be convinced to return to the Council. We cannot allow them to stand alone." Murmurs of agreement spread across the hall, but some voices remained skeptical. "We have tried diplomacy," said Ambassador Relna of the Sylvani, a plant-like species with glowing green eyes. "They refuse to listen. They do not answer our calls. Their silence is more terrifying than their words." A deep voice rumbled from the other side of the chamber. It was General Krax, a towering reptilian warrior from the Brathok Dominion. "Then perhaps we should stop speaking and start acting." His sharp teeth glistened under the light. The Council was formed to maintain order. If humans reject diplomacy, they leave us no choice. Chancellor Varric raised a hand. "No, we will not rush to war. Not yet." He turned towards the large screen where an encrypted communication channel had been opened. "Ambassador Ryan of Earth has agreed to hear our final offer." The hall fell silent as a human figure appeared on the screen. The last diplomatic attempt. Ambassador Daniel Ryan sat calmly, his expression unreadable. Behind him, the United Earth Government's banner hung on the wall. He was alone. No aides, no advisors. A deliberate message. Chancellor Varric took a deep breath. "Ambassador Ryan, we are here to offer peace. The Council acknowledges past misunderstandings. We invite humanity to rejoin us as equals. Trade, protection, cooperation. This is all still possible." Ryan's face remained neutral. "Equals." He repeated the word slowly. "Is that what the Council calls centuries of exploitation?" A few aliens shifted uncomfortably. The past was not kind to humanity. They had been treated as a lesser species, denied access to advanced technology, and forced into unfavorable treaties. "Mistakes were made," Varric admitted. "But we can start fresh. We ask that humanity accept our proposal for the sake of galactic peace." Ryan leaned forward. "Let me ask you something, Chancellor. Why now? Why, after ignoring our voices for so long, do you suddenly want us back?" Silence. No one spoke, but everyone knew the answer. The fear of humanity. The Council had monitored human activity for decades. After breaking away, Earth had advanced at an unnatural speed. Weapons, technology, fleets, far beyond what the Council predicted. Worse, intelligence reports suggested humanity had allies, species that secretly supported them. If war broke out, the outcome was uncertain. Varric tried to choose his words carefully. "We believe unity is the best path forward." Ryan smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "No, Chancellor," he said. "You believe humanity has become too powerful to control. That's why you want peace." The words cut through the chamber like a blade. The shocking answer. Varric opened his mouth to respond, but Ryan didn't wait. His voice became colder. "We will not return to the Council." Gasps filled the chamber. Even General Krax looked surprised. Ryan continued, "We remember every broken promise, every betrayal. You never wanted us as equals. You wanted us weak." The ambassadors stared at the screen in shock. This was not just a rejection. It was a declaration of defiance. "Then, what do you want?" Relna finally asked. Ryan's eyes darkened. "To be left alone. If the Council values peace, it will stay out of humanity's way." The screen went black. The transmission ended. For the first time in history, the Galactic Council had been dismissed. And now there was nothing more terrifying than what humanity would do next. The chamber remained silent long after Ambassador Ryan's transmission had ended. The air was heavy with disbelief. The Galactic Council, the most powerful governing body in the universe, had just been dismissed like a minor inconvenience. Chancellor Varric clenched his fists. This is bad. His voice was steady, but his sharp claws tapped nervously against the table. Very bad. Ambassador Relna of the Sylvani turned toward him, her glowing green eyes filled with worry. They have never spoken to us like this before. General Krax let out a low growl, his reptilian tail twitching. They've never had the power to. That was the truth. For centuries, humanity had been weak, a minor species, easily controlled. But now they had grown in ways no one had expected. The Council had monitored Earth's development, but even their best analysts had failed to predict this. Humanity was no longer an underdog. They were a threat. A desperate debate. The Council chamber erupted into chaos. Ambassadors from dozens of species shouted over one another. They will turn against us. They demand respect we cannot afford to give. We must prepare for war before they strike first. Chancellor Varric slammed his fist on the table, silencing the room. Enough. His voice echoed through the hall. Panic will not help us. We must act strategically. Relna leaned forward. And what strategy do you propose, Chancellor? Varric hesitated. That was the real question, wasn't it? What could they do? The unsettling reports. A small, nervous voice spoke up. We may have underestimated them far more than we thought. All eyes turned toward Director Lauren, head of the Council's Intelligence Division. The insectoid official held up a data tablet, his antennae twitching in distress. We have gathered intelligence on recent human advancements, he continued, and the findings are troubling. A holographic projection appeared above the table. Images of human warships, orbital stations, and unknown technologies flashed before the Council. Many of the alien leaders gasped. These were not just simple ships. They were advanced, sleek, and most importantly, not bound by the laws of the Council's technology limitations. Their ships are faster, their weapons are stronger, Lauren explained. And they have built colonies in regions we thought impossible to inhabit. Krax narrowed his eyes. How is that possible? We never gave them access to this level of technology. Lauren hesitated before answering. They didn't need us. That was the most unsettling part. Humans had advanced on their own. Without help, without permission. A dangerous conclusion. Chancellor Varric let out a slow breath. So what you're saying is, they don't need the Council anymore. Lauren nodded grimly. Not only do they not need us, but they may also see us as an obstacle. Silence. The truth settled over the chamber like a suffocating weight. For the first time, the Galactic Council was not in control, and they had no idea what humanity would do next. The Galactic Council chamber had never been this quiet before. Not a single ambassador spoke. Not a single whisper echoed through the vast hall. Humanity's silence was the loudest response they could have given. Chancellor Varric tapped his fingers on the armrest of his seat, his mind racing. After their rejection of the Council's final offer, humanity had not responded further. No threats, no ultimatums, no negotiations. Just silence. And that silence was terrifying. A species unlike any other. Ambassador Relna broke the silence. Her voice soft but tense. We have made mistakes before. Many times. But this is something else. She glanced around the room, her emerald eyes filled with uncertainty. Other species feared us, fought us, even defied us. But never have we been ignored. General Krax leaned forward, his reptilian scales rippling in frustration. It is a strategy, he hissed. They want us to act first. Varric turned toward Director Lauren, the intelligence officer who had brought the unsettling reports about human advancements. Is this true? Lauren hesitated, his antennae twitching nervously. We don't know. Varric's eyes narrowed. What do you mean you don't know? Lauren exhaled. We can't track them. The room erupted into a mix of confusion and alarm. The unseen threat. What do you mean, you can't track them? Krax growled, his tail slamming against the floor. Are you telling me that the most advanced intelligence network in the galaxy has lost an entire species? Lauren clenched his mandibles, frustration clear in his expression. Humanity's movements have become unpredictable. Their ships vanish from our sensors. Their colonies are hidden behind technology we don't understand. He looked at Varric. It's like they've disappeared. Varric's hands tightened into fists. No species disappears without reason. They are planning something. Relna's voice was barely a whisper, or they already have. The fear sets in. The implications were horrifying. For centuries, the Galactic Council had maintained control through diplomacy, trade, and, when necessary, force. But force only worked when you could see your enemy. If humanity had truly vanished from the Council's watchful eye, it meant that whatever they were preparing was already in motion. Varric stood, his commanding presence making the entire chamber go still. We cannot afford to wait. Krax nodded in agreement. If we do, we may be the ones receiving an ultimatum next. Relna took a shaky breath. So what do we do? For the first time in his long career, Varric didn't have an answer. But he knew one thing. Humanity's silence was not peace. It was a warning. And the Council had no idea when that warning would turn into action. Chancellor Varric paced back and forth in the center of the Galactic Council chamber. His mind was racing, but every possible solution led to one terrifying realization. Humanity was beyond their control. The Council had ruled the galaxy for centuries, keeping order through diplomacy, economic pressure, and, when necessary, military force. But now they were facing an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't predict, and, worst of all, couldn't understand. And that made them dangerous. A divided council. The ambassadors of the most powerful species sat in a tense circle. Some wanted immediate action. Others were too afraid to even speak. General Krax, the military leader of the council, slammed his fist on the table. We cannot sit here and do nothing. The humans have vanished from our sensors. We don't know what they're planning. Ambassador Relna, always the voice of caution, narrowed her glowing green eyes. And what do you suggest? Attacking them? That would be suicide. Krax bared his fangs. We must prepare. If they have abandoned diplomacy, then war is inevitable. Relna exhaled, shaking her head. And if we push too hard, we may be the ones who force that war to happen. The chamber erupted into arguments, different species shouting over each other. If we strike first, we have the advantage. Fools. The humans may already be watching us. We need to re-establish communication. Varric had heard enough. He raised his hand, and the chamber fell silent. A risky gamble. Varric's gaze swept across the room. We must be careful. His voice was steady, but inside, he felt the weight of the galaxy pressing down on him. If we send ships into their territory, they will see it as an act of war. He turned toward Lauren, the head of intelligence. Are there any human officials still within council space? Lauren hesitated. Then, slowly, he nodded. Yes, but they are under strict orders from Earth. They refuse to speak. Varric exhaled sharply. Then we forced them to. Relna's eyes widened. You mean to detain them? Krax smirked. It's not an attack, it's containment. If we hold key human officials, their government will have to respond. Varric looked at his advisors. This is our best chance to get answers. The plan is set. Within hours, the Council's forces moved. Human embassies were locked down. Diplomats were placed under protective custody. Communications were intercepted. No violence. No aggression. Just a silent message. Talk to us, or we won't let you leave. The Council waited, expecting outrage, protests, anything. But once again, humanity gave them only silence. A chilling revelation. Then something unexpected happened. A single message arrived from Earth. A simple transmission, played before the entire council. A human official, face hidden in shadow, spoke just 3 words. Too late. And then, the signal went dead. The council chamber fell into absolute silence. Varric felt his blood run cold. What did they mean? What had humanity already done? And more importantly, what was coming? The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. The message from Earth, just 2 chilling words, too late, echoed in every ambassador's mind. Too late for what? Chancellor Varric clenched his fists. He had spent decades controlling interstellar politics, maintaining order, ensuring no species ever defied the Council's rule. But now, for the first time, he felt powerless. Something is wrong. General Krax, the Council's most aggressive war strategist, growled. His reptilian tail slammed against the floor. Enough of this. We need to act before it's too late. Ambassador Relna shook her head, her emerald eyes filled with unease. Act. Against what, Krax? We don't even know what's happening. Then we find out. Varric turned toward Director Lauren, the head of intelligence. Give me a report. Now. Loran, usually calm and collected, looked afraid. That was a bad sign. He cleared his throat, his antennae twitching. Chancellor, we've lost contact with 3 outpost worlds near the Terran border. The entire chamber fell silent. 3 planets, gone, vanished without a trace. Relna's voice was barely a whisper. What do you mean lost contact? Lauren exhaled. No distress signals, no transmissions, no debris, no evidence of battle. He paused. It's as if the planets simply vanished. Varric's chest tightened. That's impossible. Nothing is impossible anymore. Krax slammed his fist on the table. We need to send a fleet. Now. But before Varric could respond, a new alarm blared across the chamber. Emergency transmission detected. The holographic screen flickered, and a panicked alien officer appeared, barely able to contain his terror. Council command. This is Outpost T-97. Something is happening. The transmission cut off. Silence. Then another alarm. Outpost T-97. Signal lost. It had vanished. The unseen enemy. The council chamber erupted in panic. Krax turned to Varric. We don't have time. Send the war fleet before more worlds disappear. Varric hesitated. His instincts screamed at him. This wasn't a war. This was something worse. Humanity wasn't attacking them. Humanity was erasing them. He stood up, his voice firm. We are not sending warships. Krax bared his fangs. Then what do we do? Varric's expression darkened. We surrender. Gasps filled the chamber. Relna stared at him in shock. Surrender? To whom? They haven't even fired a shot. Varric turned toward the darkened screen where the human message had played. Exactly. Because if humanity wasn't fighting them, then what had they already done? The Galactic Council chamber was no longer filled with shouting. There was no arguing, no grand speeches, no threats of war. Only silence. Because now, everyone knew the truth. They had already lost. The impossible war. Chancellor Varric sat motionless, his mind struggling to process the events unfolding. Humanity had not declared war. They had not invaded. They had not fired a single shot. Yet, entire worlds were disappearing, vanishing from existence. And now, the Galactic Council's power was crumbling. A terrifying revelation. Ambassador Relna finally spoke, her voice unsteady. We need answers. Now. General Krax, for once, had nothing to say. His reptilian claws clenched the table, his tail unmoving. All eyes turned to Director Lauren, the head of intelligence. He swallowed hard before speaking. Our spies managed to retrieve a single encrypted transmission from Earth. He hesitated. It contains a name. Varric frowned. A name. Lauren nodded. An operation name. The chamber leaned in. Lauren's voice was barely a whisper. Project Eclipse. The final message. A sudden beeping interrupted them. A new transmission. From Earth. It was a simple text message. You ignored our warnings. Now you see. There is no war, no battle, no diplomacy. There is only the void. This is what you forced us to do. The message ended. And then, another planet went dark. The unseen horror. Panic broke out. Ambassadors screamed. Military officials ran to make calls. But there was nothing left to do. The council was powerless. Relna turned to Varric, her voice shaking. We don't even know what Project Eclipse is. Varric exhaled. His hands trembled as he realized the truth. They didn't need to know, because humanity had already won. And now, the only question left was, how many would be left when it was over? The Galactic Council chamber was no longer a place of order. It was a graveyard of fallen rulers, the greatest powers in the galaxy, brought to their knees without a single human firing a weapon. And the worst part, nobody knew how. The last stand. Chancellor Varric stood at the center of the chaos, his hands gripping the edge of the massive table. He had led the council for over a century. He had seen wars, rebellions, and starfaring empires rise and fall. But this was annihilation without destruction. Planets were not invaded. They were vanishing. Armies were not defeated. They simply ceased to exist. And now, Earth had spoken. A new transmission arrived. The entire chamber froze as it played. Humanity's final words. A single human figure appeared on the screen. Their face was obscured, their voice calm. You thought yourselves invincible. You believed power meant control. But power means nothing when you do not understand the battlefield. The council members leaned in. The voice continued. You pushed us. You mocked us. You thought we were weak. But we are not warriors. We are something worse. Varric swallowed. What do you want? He muttered under his breath. As if the figure had heard him, they answered. We don't want war. We don't want your surrender. We don't want your worlds. The screen flickered. And then, a star went dark. Not a planet. A star. A sun, once burning brightly, was simply gone. Darkness spread across an entire system. Varric's breath hitched. No, that's impossible. The human's voice was emotionless. This is Project Eclipse, the end of an era. Panic erupted. They can erase stars. Someone screamed. This defies all laws of physics. What kind of monsters are they? Varric's hands shook. It's not a weapon, he whispered. It's something else. He turned to Director Lauren, his voice barely steady. Tell me you have an explanation. Lauren only shook his head. We don't even know how they're doing it. Then it's over, Relna muttered. The truth was clear now. This wasn't war. It was erasure, and humanity had already won. A new galactic order. The screen flickered one last time. The human figure spoke a final message. The Galactic Council is no more. You will not find us. You will not stop us. From this moment on, your rule is finished. The transmission ended. Varric slumped into his chair. Silence filled the chamber. The greatest empire in the galaxy had fallen. Not by battle. Not by war. But by something far worse. By the will of humanity. And the galaxy would never be the same again.